Hello and welcome back to Continental Club, where we discuss the hottest topics in European football. Today we're talking about some of the titans of Spanish football. So I've got some of the gods of the FD office with me, in Chris Hamill and Patrick Van Straten. Yeah, no mincing of words today. That's because Luis CMS31 has asked, how do Real Madrid deal with their injury crisis whilst maintaining a title challenge? But before we get into that, please remember to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell to never miss a video. If you haven't by now, what are you doing? Do it. But we've got to talk about Real Madrid because they currently have, get this, Courtois, Mendy, Brahim Diaz, Isco, James Rodriguez, Hazard, Rodrigo, Asensio and Jovic out with injury. And it's not even September. That's 9 players out of a squad of 28. The earliest return date for any of those is James Rodriguez, who's coming back on the 13th of September. According to internet reports. And the pressure is on. They're playing Villarreal away this weekend. They've then got Levante. They've then got a tough game away at Sevilla. Osasuna at home, newly promoted side, should be okay. And then it's the Madrid derby against Atletico Madrid. So it's not looking too good for Zidane in terms of resources available to him. But in terms of their results so far, it hasn't been disastrous, Pat.
No, but they've been getting a little bit lucky,
Yeah.
I think. They obviously beat Celta Vigo on the opening day of the season, and they outshot them pretty substantially. But when you look at the expected goals in that match, I think they had something like 2, and Celta had 1.4. And they were pretty lucky to escape. They also got some lucky calls from the referee that day, I thought. And they scored a couple of good goals. You know, Toni Kroos banged one in from about 30 yards. And a really lovely team move. Karim Benzema had a great game. Couple of key passes created, couple of dribbles, 4 shots. But it's really kind of troubling that they can't defend at the moment, because when you look at this squad, you say their strength should probably be their back line. But the problem is the midfield is just so porous. Luka Modric, of course, out after that red card in the opening game of the season. Yeah, well, I don't think it was necessarily his intention, but it is pretty bad.
It's only the second one of his career, right? He's not that sort of player.
I think it's his first for Real Madrid, yeah. And yeah, in the second game, they were at home against Real Valladolid, and they had 1.7 expected goals to 1.2 against, which sounds okay, except when you're playing at home and you're Real Madrid, 0.5 expected goal difference positive is not really good enough. No side playing at home in Spain that weekend conceded more expected goals. So it just feels like, at the moment, yes, okay, people will come back from injury, and I think that will improve them a bit, in the sense that I think Eden Hazard will play when he comes back from injury, but I'm not sure Isco's going to play. I'm not sure James is going to play. I'm not sure that Jovic is going to play, certainly, because we're hearing rumours about him being
concerning,
not particularly rated by Zinedine Zidane, who has a history of rating a player for a half season, ditching them from the squad entirely, as he did with Isco on several occasions. I don't know, really. I look at that team and I find it hard to see them beating Barcelona for the title, even though Barcelona have had such a ropey start to the season. You look at Barcelona and you think, yeah, pretty much all these problems are solved by people coming back from injury. You look at Real Madrid and you think, even if they have their first choice front line and their first choice back line and their first choice keeper, who's probably not as good as their second choice keeper, their midfield is still a massive problem. Toni Kroos is a problem for them there. Luka Modric is 34. That is a problem for them there. And you just simply can't play this way anymore. They're playing football from kind of 2012 and it just doesn't quite work. Plus, over the next month, they've got some tough fixtures. They've got Villarreal away, which can be really difficult. They've got Sevilla, who could certainly do a number on them. And then they finish September with Atletico Madrid. And if they don't have some of these key players back, you could easily see them getting pumped in one of those games, or at the very least shut down. And the fact that Gareth Bale went from being on his way to China to being pretty much a guaranteed starter.
He's playing well as well.
He is playing well, but it's worrying that things turned around so quickly there, given that Zidane was publicly saying
he doesn't fit.
He needs to go. And now, 4.5 shots a game, a key pass as well. Like, it does look good, and they're taking a lot of shots as a side, but they're not getting good quality chances, and it does worry me.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, I think Zidane, paucity of options available. It's the old guard they're going to be playing the next few games. But before we go on to talk about Barcelona, I just need to say, obviously, the condolences from the FD family to Luis Enrique and his family after losing their 9-year-old daughter to cancer. What a tragic loss. Words can't really do it justice. But yeah, all of the thoughts of FD are with him and his family at this difficult time. But yeah, let's move on to Barcelona, Chris, because defeat to Athletic Bilbao, but then they sort of got it together against Real Betis.
Yeah, and I saw flashes of the game. My actual, what I'm going to offer this episode is going to be extremely limited, mate, because my last sort of 24 hours has consisted of scrolling up and down Fabian Schär's Instagram page. Lovely guy, by the way, extremely good looking. Yeah, late back from Newcastle yesterday, but I'll try my utmost. And I did do a post about it was nice seeing Valverde sort of blood a few youngsters. It was through necessity, wasn't it? Because Luis Suarez is injured, Messi's injured. They both watched on as Carlos Perez got his goal in what was only his second or third appearance for the club. He got 17 minutes last campaign. I think it was his first start, actually. And he's not young. He's no spring chicken. I mean, he's 21, but he's kind of been playing for the B team for a number of years now. So it's nice to see him break through, put in a really kind of industrious performance up front, along with Rafinha, pretty kind of makeshift forward line. But Griezmann was absolutely outstanding, and we saw some sort of peak Suarez and Messi finishing, particularly that second goal where he sort of curled it around the goalkeeper. I think it was his left foot, goalkeeper's right hand side. But it could have been a very different story, of course. Batiste opening the scoring with Nabil Fekir, who we're massive fans of, finishing his chance really well. And it was alarming, actually, in that game to see how easily they infiltrated Barcelona sort of in the middle of the park. Busquets was lagging behind in that game. And there were a lot of kind of fans and media outlets kind of questioning his inclusion in the next national setup if his form continues like it has done at the start of the season. So not the best start for him. We talk about Real Madrid sort of still, despite spending a record-breaking amount in the window, relying on the old guard. Barcelona aren't really in a position where they can rely on the old guard. Of course, two being out, and it kind of makes that performance, that Messi performance against Liverpool last season, all the more astounding when you kind of look at some of their defensive frailties and inability to kind of progress the ball without him this season. Although, you know, Frankie de Jong still being blooded into the side. You have Arthur, who's kind of waiting to come in, isn't he? Kind of waiting to establish himself.
Vidal's goal was beautiful as well.
Yeah, Vidal's finish. It was who assisted that? It was down the left-hand side, wasn't it? And he did extremely well to kind of just position his foot where the ball would just hit it and go top right. But as much stick as Valverde gets, he opted, to bring some youth in. He managed to plug the gaps in Barcelona's starting 11. The Barcelona way, let's say. And it was nice to see Ansa get some minutes. Of course, Messi did a really nice post after the game, kind of hugging him, congratulating him on being the second youngest debutant at Barcelona. So hopefully we see, along with those two players, there's some other players that I sort of posted about on Instagram. Hopefully we see them come to the fore this season, because if you're a football purist, you want to see La Masia functioning again. And of course, it's not really been the case in seasons gone by. Did you guys catch any more of the Barcelona game? Do you have any kind of input on Blaugrana?
I think it's just really impressive to manage to score 5 goals against a team in Real Betis who, whilst they're not necessarily the best defensively, at least last season anyway, still have a very good side, and to score those goals without Messi, Suarez, whose return dates actually haven't been announced yet, and Ousmane Dembele as well, is really impressive. But the big Barcelona news, as it always has been this summer, and we are hoping that it comes to an end soon, is the Neymar deal. Supposedly, I think it's a £200 million deal, but they haven't worked out how that all fits together yet, and it's Ousmane Dembele, Rakitic, and Todibo potentially going to PSG, although Guillaume Balaguer on BBC Sport this morning or last night said that neither of the three wanted to go to PSG. And Ousmane Dembele's agent only came out a few weeks ago saying he was definitely staying at Barcelona. So it feels like that deal is quite a long way from being completed. But there are some big, Damasio's talking about it now, Guillaume Balaguer, these are some big names in transfer dealings.
Just going back to what I was saying about Valverde, you get the impression that he doesn't have an awful lot of input on transfers that kind of exceed 100 million. So I do, as much as we kind of criticise him for his conservative approach and his kind of boring substitutions or lack of, I suppose, not productivity, lack of being proactiveness on the sideline sometimes, he's kind of handled business off the pitch extremely well. You've got, barring the relationship with Ousmane Dembele, which, it looks like he's going to break into the team again one week, is breaking down again the week after. But this whole Neymar thing, to start the season with that hanging over you, with your rival getting their £150 million player isn't ideal preparation, is it? And they've still got not a lot of joined up thinking in terms of building that squad. They've probably still got a surplus of midfielders. But what do you guys think that latest offer then for Neymar? Is it still worth pursuing? Like at this point, would you not just kind of trust Dembele? Or
yeah, I mean, I think Neymar is obviously fantastic player. I still think he's probably the second, maybe third best player in the world by a distance. When he's been on the pitch for PSG, he's been absolutely superb. I mean, he's close to a goal contribution every single game. Actually, maybe more than a goal contribution every single game. But it's so difficult to know with his injury issues over the last few years, whether that's because he's unhappy in Paris and he's throwing his toys out of the pram, or whether his body is actually slightly falling apart. And in which case, I wouldn't bring him in at the expense of losing Ousmane Dembele for a year. I think they can definitely afford to lose Todibo, and they can probably afford to lose Rakitic. But I think Ousmane Dembele is the potential future of that club, especially looking at the age of the rest of the attack. I think it's just more short-term thinking. But then at the same time, if you've got a striking roster of Griezmann, Suarez, Messi and Neymar, it's just silly, really. You can't really fault it as well. I'm not really sure how to make sense of it.
But it is silly. It's gluttonous, isn't it? So you're soaking up all those wages as well. How do you get them all in the same forward line? A lot of people using Carlos Perez's performance, by the way, as a kind of stick to beat Ousmane Dembele with, which I think is pathetic. And this does highlight how spoilt some Barcelona fans can be. I mean, pursuing Neymar at this stage of the season, I feel like if they haven't got it wrapped up, then let's just start putting together a competent, obviously they put 5 goals past Matisse, so beyond competent. Let's start putting together a Barcelona team that can build the Champions League, that can win the Champions League, that know what it is to play with one another. You've got players in there that are going to have to adjust their game, like Griezmann, to kind of facilitate Messi's playing style and stuff. So there's already question marks hanging over certain things, and certain players are going to have to adapt. So I just think bringing Neymar in complicates things, and it's just, what a financial burden.
Well, it's difficult to make sense of. Let's see if it actually happens before the Monday deadline, but it's going to be an intriguing couple of days. Do slightly feel sorry for Ousmane Dembele if he's being shipped out to PSG. But let's move on to the third, well, there might be a fourth contender in Sevilla, but let's move on to the definite third contender in Atletico Madrid, because they've started the season with 2 1-0 victories. Classic Simeone. From what I've caught of them, which isn't a lot, I've only watched highlights package, not particularly entertaining at the moment. I think they're only averaging 5.5 shots per game, which is the 19th best record in the division. They're getting 4.5 of them on target. Pat, you've been slightly, well, not sceptical is possibly not the right word, but maybe slightly pouring a bit of cold water on the whole João Felix hype.
Well, I don't know. João Felix might be good. His expected goals numbers certainly look good. He's at 0.7 expected goals and assists per 90, which would be amazing normally. But here I think you have to be a little bit concerned about the fact that the raw numbers are not that great. So it's under 1.5 shots a game. It's, I think, close to half a key pass
key passes,
per game. Like, these are quite troubling numbers, and it's kind of funny as well that before this season, as we heard, I remember 3 or 4 years ago, this is going to be a new Atletico, this is going to be an attacking, fun Atletico, and their games have seen about 10 shots combined through the first couple of fixtures. I mean, I'm perfectly fine with teams focusing on quality over quantity when it comes to shots, but that doesn't normally go this far. And I think that Simeone will be a little bit concerned about how he manages to boost things up. Like, Morata obviously had a very good half season last year, pretty much put up the same numbers as Griezmann. So if that's the same this season, then I think that'll be absolutely fine. If he gets more out of Lamar, Felix, Koke, all those kind of guys around him. But I don't know, it looks to me like the system isn't quite working yet.
Well, he played a 3-1-4-2, which I thought was quite interesting. I don't think I've seen Simeone play that before, with Saul and Trippier as his wing-backs, Partey shielding a back 3 of Jimenez, Savic and Hermoso, I think. And it didn't lead to that much productivity. I don't know whether you want Saul Niguez as a left wing-back necessarily. I think he's so much better in central areas.
Yeah, but the thing is about Atleti is regardless of where everyone plays, they do play in central areas. They always played a 4-4-2 where all 4 of the midfield players were central midfielders fundamentally, who were going to pinch inside. So that probably is going to lead to quite a good season for Kieran Trippier, I think, because his delivery is so good. He'll be pretty much given the run of the right flank, and obviously got an assist in the first game from Morata.
Lovely ball in, yeah.
But I don't really know what to make of Atleti yet. Like, you look at the score lines and you think, yeah, this is vintage Atleti. But I think with them, we are really going to need some time to see how these guys click. Because realistically, Llorente is going to be a starter for most of the season, we assume. They spent an awful lot of money on him for the experience that he brings. And I think they were a little bit unlucky as well that Lodi got sent off in that first match, because I thought he started the game pretty well.
Up until then, apparently he was playing really well.
And it was pretty harsh. Like, the second yellow was pretty harsh. It's because somebody had been sent off on the other side, so I think the ref kind of needed to even it out. But
which makes sense while Sal Niguez was playing left wing back. It all ties in. Sorry,
Yeah.
Sal, to have a go at you. But yeah, if you guys had to say at this early stage, I mean, Barcelona have obviously dropped points. Real Madrid have dropped points. Where do you see the dynamic going this year, Chris?
After.
I mean, it's difficult to say after 2 games.
very, very small sample size. I've not even kind of looked at the numbers in a more, scientific, not definitely
analytical
sense. Definitely wasn't what I was looking for. League title. I mean, Barcelona strengthened meaningfully, maybe in not all the right areas, but. You look at some of the substitutions they were making at the weekend, some of the players they've got to bring back. Maybe they're coming back a little bit earlier than Real Madrid's players as well. There's probably a deeper understanding with their players given the turnover at Real Madrid. So they definitely have the edge going into the season. And they've got, Messi coming off the back of another unbelievable year. So I think the ball is pretty much in their court. But the jury's still out with Zidane as well. Like, what version of Zidane or Real Madrid are we going to get? I'm not quite sure.
Fine. I would still go. I said it a month ago, so I think I'm going Barca, Real Madrid, and Atleti in that order. But Real Madrid have a difficult next month or so. Pat, what do you reckon?
I don't really see anybody but Barca winning the league. Like, Real Madrid, their squad is just too incomplete. Like, Barcelona are probably better than in pretty much every area of the park, I'd have thought. So it looks like Barca.
They needed that midfielder in Real Madrid, and I think they let Llorente and Chavez go was possibly a mistake in the long term. But anyway, that's our take on La Liga. 2 games into the year, so it's early days yet. But to answer the original question, how do Real Madrid deal with their injury crisis? With difficulty. Let's move on to big match preview. Big match preview this week is Juventus versus Napoli. Now, you would have thought that this would be a very important game for Maurizio Sarri, but I'm not actually aware of how he's going with his battle against pneumonia. So hopefully he'll be on the sidelines for this, in which case it will obviously be his first Serie A home game in charge of Juventus against his former club. Napoli obviously led them for 3 years. They did exceptionally well under him. I think it was 3 top 3 finishes. Converting them sort of from the 5th best side initially the season they took over to one that was capable of getting 90 points and finishing within 4 points of Juventus. So it's a big game for him. Takes place at Saturday at 7:45, if I didn't already say. What are we thinking about this game, Chris?
I mean, it's pretty mouth-watering proposition, isn't it? I wasn't overawed by Juventus' first game. I think it was a Chiellini goal that separated them from Parma.
It was Parma, yes.
They lined up in quite an interesting way with Ronaldo playing, off the left, Higuain playing through the centre, and I think it was Costa on the right-hand side, which meant Dybala on the bench, something that we've talked about at depth at the start of this season. Where does he fit in? Is he a Sarri sort of player, despite ostensibly being a very Sarri sort of player? So that's quite an interesting dynamic, how he'll break back into the first team, with Higuain coming straight back in. I watched a little bit of the Fiorentina-Napoli game. They finished 4-3 to the away side, which is Napoli in that particular fixture. Insigne scored a header. That's what sort of fixture that was. There was a couple of penalties, wasn't there? Dries Mertens taking an absolute dive for his. Fabian Ruiz, once again, one of the star performers from that central midfield berth. Very attack-minded, very progressive, playing with the likes of Zielinski. I can only see that kind of relationship growing and really coming to the fore for Napoli. Hopefully, Napoli edge them, and it'll make this Serie A season a lot more interesting than what's come before. They do look a little bit more fallible. They do look a little bit, disjointed at the start of this campaign. I don't even think they were unlucky not to score more for the margin of victory to be wider against Parma. And this isn't a great Parma side. Well, it wasn't a great Parma side, was it? So that's about my input, man.
Yeah, I think only 3 sides, the 3 relegated sides, conceded more goals than Parma last year. And I was quite surprised with their composition of their midfield. I think it was Pjanic in the holding role, and then Khedira and Matuidi. which is a bit of a throwback. I haven't seen Khedira and Matuidi and Pjanic for a while.
But that just sounds like something you can get away with against Parma. And to
Yeah.
be fair, like they're extremely dominant. Like they gave up almost nothing on the defensive end, like 0.3 expected goals. They had 1.9 in attack. Like, I mean, that's an easy win. That's a routine win. And yeah, if they'd come out of it maybe 2-0 winners or 3-0 winners, then we might be a bit more convinced that we're seeing kind of the print of Sarri on this side, I guess. But I don't know. These are two sides which are absolutely playing up to the stereotypes of these two sides. And really the story, I think, for Napoli since Sarri left has been their defensive deterioration. Like under Sarri, partially because they had the ball over all the time, they were a really good defensive team. They weren't just great in attack, they were really good in defence. They had the best attack and the best defence, I think, in his final season there, before he left for Chelsea, the season they should have won the league. And now they're kind of porous. Obviously, they brought in Manolas to hopefully fix that a little bit, but I don't know. It kind of depends who Juventus end up picking. Like, if they run out the lineup from that first game against Napoli, I wouldn't be that confident, just because it's so weak in the centre of the park. If they run out their actual first team, Rabiot plays. Obviously, Ramsey isn't fit, but if they run out guys like Rabiot, and maybe if Dybala can get on the pitch as well, then I think that would probably be enough to see them past Napoli.
Yeah, I'm going to be intrigued about whether Lozano makes his debut as well. Obviously, 2 fantastic years in the Eredivisie. I think it was 25 goal contributions last year for a PSV side that had the same goal difference. I remember writing this in a script this week. Same goal difference as Man City, despite playing 4 fewer games. PSV were awesome last year, at least in an attacking sense, and just came up against a superb Ajax side. It was a really thrilling title race in the end. So I'm interested to see where Lozano will fit into Ancelotti's system, because Insigne started that game against Fiorentina in sort of spectacular start. I think he was clearly man of the match. I think it was 2 goals and assist, sort of virtuoso Insigne performance. So I'll be intrigued to see whether Lozano gets on at any stage in this game and where he played. Maybe the long-term replacement for Callahan, I suppose. But we're just talking about off camera that Callahan was used in a midfield role in pre-season at points. So perhaps Ancelotti's got a plan there. But yeah, I can't wait for this game. Hopefully it's an absolute thriller. Score prediction, Pat.
Where is it?
It's at Juve.
Juve 2-1.
Chris?
2-2.
2-2. I'm going to go for a shock. I'm going to go different. Yeah, 2-1 Napoli. Let's move instantly on to quickfire questions. Hilo Silo, great caption, great name that. Is Jadon Sancho the best player in the Bundesliga? I think that's probably no. I think Lewandowski is still ahead of him in personal opinion, but he has started in spectacular style. Anyone disagree with that?
No, Lewandowski is clearly the best player in the Bundesliga last season, and arguably the second or third best player in Europe. And when Thiago is fully fit as well, Thiago is arguably the best central midfielder in the world. As good as Jadon Sancho is, he is amazing, but it remains to be seen. He had one amazing season. If he maintains that this year and it looks like a good start, then who knows? We might be talking about him in this conversation next year, but I don't know.
He does look electric at the start of this year, and Dortmund have been on fire so far. Next one. Will Sevilla be the surprise package of La Liga after such a good start? That was from Najib Bewazami. Sorry, that wasn't very fluent. But Sevilla started with 2 wins. Chris Monchi's back at Sevilla. Ronnie Lopez is gone. Ben Yeda's gone. What are you making of Sevilla at this early stage?
I mean, it's really hard, to predict Sevilla, isn't it? Full stop as a club at the moment. They've had great 6 months under various different managers. I think the most consistent spell was probably Sampaoli. So, I mean, forensic was the word I was looking for, by the way.
Forensic.
Earlier. So I haven't really taken a forensic look at Sevilla. So unfortunately, don't have anything meaningful to add. But if that squad can gel pretty quickly, then they can probably put together a run for a Champions League spot. Because they certainly strengthened, I want to say, in better fashion than Valencia, unless I'm missing any really obvious business that Valencia maybe conducted. Or are yet to conduct.
No, I can't really think of it.
Has Rodrigo left?
Rodrigo was rumoured to be going to Atletico Madrid.
They brought in Maxi Gomez.
Maxi Gomez arrived.
Okay.
But Sevilla signed a hell of a lot of players. It was Joan Jordan, Minister Bohr, Luke de Jong,
Jules Koundé, Ronnie
Luis
Lopez. Did you
Campos
say
as
him?
well? Ronnie Lopez came in. Yeah, Ben Yedder.
Oliver Torres as well. Like I think actually like their signings are really good for the most part, and I think Lopetegui is a good manager that really fits the players he's got at his disposal. I think that I don't know. I actually think Sevilla can aim a little bit higher. If one of those big sides has a bad season, which I think is perfectly possible, particularly in the case of Real Madrid and Atleti, they could hope for a third. But I think they should consider fourth to be the minimum this season. They look really good through the first couple of games.
Reguilon played. His stats look incredible after 2 games. But it's only 2 games. But yeah, hopefully he has a good season. But yeah, that's all we've got time for on Continental Club for this week. We took a bit of a meander around Europe. La Liga, Serie A, we talked about it all. And Neymar, of course, as well. Chris, what should the people go and do now?
What have we got coming up? We need to talk today over on Football Daily. And we have Stat Wars coming up at the weekend on Euro Football Daily. So stay tuned.
Yes,
a couple of podcasts as well. Still on the feed. Well, we've got The Game's Gone Mad, we've got extra time, so go check out those bad boys.
Pat, any message for the people?
No.
No, that's it. See you later. Bye.